Hello everyone, Richard here at Calvin Wazoo. And if you're an avid reader, as I am, you often discover that those original thoughts that you have aren't necessarily all that new. So, hello again. And as the title of the video states, these are the 10, well, honestly, it's 11 best books that I have read so far. And this is a changing list, and it will change very soon, I think, because of a book that I am reading right now, but I'm not finished with it, but it may find its way on this list. And I may be doing similar ones like this in the future because, how do you narrow down all the wonderful books that you've read to a list of just 10? It's a big challenge. But these are books that will always be on this list, but there will be other videos that I will do where I'll just talk about, 10 absolutely remarkable books that I think you should read. And I'm going to get started here with this list, starting off with a book written in 1923. So what I've done here with these is I'm not ranking them according to which ones I think are better than the others. I'm starting with the oldest going to the newest. So it's based on when they were published. Because seriously, unless you're comparing like a mystery book to a mystery book, how can you say one book is better than another when they're completely different? One may be nonfiction and an absolutely brilliant read, and then the other one may be a young adult fiction, and it's an absolutely brilliant read. So, how can you do, So just ranking them according to their publication date. And this one was published in 1923, and it is Wanderer of the Wasteland by Zane Grey. Now, I'm not a big Western genre reader. I've read some Louis L'Amour, and I've read other books by Zane Grey, but I'm not one who's going to run out and read Westerns in particular just because they're a Western. Whereas I am the kind of person who might read a murder mystery just because it's a murder mystery, because I really enjoy that genre. But anyway, Zane Grey, Wanderer of the Wasteland. The reason this book has left me with a lasting impression is because of its description of Death Valley. The book is about a person on the run and who finds themselves in Death Valley. And the descriptions of Death Valley are absolutely remarkable, and it prompted me very much to go to Death Valley. I've always wanted to visit there, and by doing so, I was able to see and recognize some of the stunning landscapes that Zane Grey describes about Death Valley. Clearly he was there. Clearly he spent plenty of time there. And it's a remarkable book. And even if you're not a Western genre lover, this is going to be a really good read. So Zane Grey, Wanderer of the Wasteland. The next one is a book published in 1927, and that is Steppenwolf by Hermann Hesse. Now, during my late teens and into my early 20s, I read just about all. I read all of Hesse's work, and they all left really profound impacts on me. But then I went back and I decided, okay, I'm going to start reading them again now that I'm in my 60s. And I read Damien. And while that book really amazed me when I was like 17 years old, I didn't really think all that much of it now. Steppenwolf, however, I read that when I was 19, and it was an amazing book to me then, and I reread it, and it's an amazing book to me now, but for different reasons. I have a much stronger connection with the main character, Harry Haller, now, in that I can relate to what he was going through and experiencing that I didn't necessarily have when I read the book when I was 19. Fantastic book. I love Hermann Hesse and the way he addresses philosophical questions in a fictional form. And this one is a book that is timeless. And I really, really enjoy rereading it. And there are a couple other of his books that I have reread. And I am finding that I still have that same profound experience with them. Damien just kind of left me a little meh. Then the next one we have is from 1929. I have a copy, I'm sure, I just can't find it. I mean, I just moved from Chicago, moved all my books from Chicago here to my new place in Holland, and they're in all kinds of disarray. But anyway, the book is The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner, as I said, published in 1929. This book so astounded me. Now, I haven't read it for many, 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 many years. When I read it, it was maybe around 1979, 1980. And I was attending university in Tucson. And I read the book in an afternoon. Once I started reading it, I could not put it down. It is just a remarkable story with the different perspectives in terms of the point of view, especially with the opening part of the book told by the point of view of a mentally disabled person. It is just, the language is so incredible. And the story that gets revealed through the different narratives in this novel is astounding as well. So The Sound and the Fury by William Faulkner. The next one, I got this new box set, The Lord of the Rings by J.R.R. Tolkien. Was published originally in 1954. This is a book that I have read probably 7 times. It is such an amazing fantasy work. Such a remarkable story. The detail to things, not just the language part, which is absolutely incredible, but to the peoples and the architecture and their customs and everything about this book. When you're reading it, it's you forget it's a fantasy. It's a real world that you are falling into. And yes, I've read it probably at least 7 times. I bought this new set of paperbacks because I do have this very handsome leather bound in a slipcase edition, but it's starting to show some wear and cracks, and I'm not going to be doing it for reading anymore. That's why I got this, because I'm going to read it again. I recently reread The Hobbit, and The Hobbit, it's okay. Yeah, it's okay. It's definitely a children's story, but The Lord of the Rings is definitely an adult story with just remarkable characters. All right, so Lord of the Rings from 1954. Then comes 1960 with this book, To Kill a Mockingbird. So you've got this story told from the perspective of the character Scout, and then you've got her brother Jem, and then it's her father with his what do you call them? With his way. Atticus Finch is just such an amazing character. And then you've got the story. All right, so you've got the story that touches upon the racism and racial tensions, but you've also got this story of a description of a very beautiful, idyllic place in a simple place, told from Scout's perspective. A wonderful story. And I know that many people probably have read it because they had to, because it was a required reading, either in high school or maybe a college course, but it is truly a remarkable tale for the ages. And if you haven't read it, or if you read it a long time ago because you had to because of school, hey, pick it up. I think it's particularly important and relevant to be reading it now. So To Kill a Mockingbird. All right, moving to, this is another book where I cannot find my copy. But the book was written in, or published, I should say, in 1964, Sometimes a Great Notion by Kesey, who may be more well known for the book One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, which is another fantastic book. But what I really love about Sometimes a Great Notion is the storytelling itself is remarkable. What Kesey was doing. This is a story about Hank Stamper and his family and others around him. And I believe it's been a long time since I read it, but I believe it takes place in Washington State, and it's the lumber industry, and just a lot of things going on. And the remarkable thing about the narrative is how Kesey smoothly shifts perspectives from one character to another. And it's done so smoothly and neatly that you're aware the shift is happening, but it doesn't interrupt you. It just all comes together. And I saw a book that had his notes and how he was putting it together. And he drew this image of the teeth on a saw, you know, how they're set apart like this. And his concept was, okay, this tooth here is one character's perspective. This tooth here is another character's perspective. And he's going to be telling them sort of simultaneously, and then gradually they are going to come together into a single narrative, and then they're going to diverge again like that. It's just brilliant storytelling. And it's a fantastic story as well. So Sometimes a Great Notion made into a very good movie as well, with, I believe, Paul Newman in that. But the story is just, and the descriptions and the connection that you can achieve with the characters is remarkable, and that's why it's one of the best books of all time that I have ever read. Sometimes a Great Notion. The next one, Singing from the Well, is by Cuban artist, writer, now deceased, Reinaldo Arenas. This is when I say fantastic, I'm not talking about it. It's a great book, but it's a fantastic book in terms of it intertwines fantasy and reality in a semi-autobiographical tale of Ronaldo's early childhood in Cuba before Fidel Castro. And the opening of the book is just absolutely stunning. There went my mother. She just went running out the door. She was screaming like a crazy woman that she was going to jump down the well. I see my mother at the bottom of the well. I see her floating in the greenish water choked with leaves. So I run for the yard, out to where the well is, that's fenced around with a wellhead of naked boy saplings so rickety it's almost falling in. I run up and peek over. But just like always, the only one down there is me. Me being reflected from way down there up to me above. Me. And I disappear if you so much as spit into the oozy green water. This is how the story opens. And it is just a riveting story, part of a Pentagonia, or a series of 5 novels that talks about, it's semi-autobiographical in terms of his life in Cuba before and then after Castro. He managed to leave Cuba, and I think he resettled into Miami, no, he made it to New York before he died of AIDS. Absolutely incredible books. But Singing from the Well is the one that has left the most profound impact on me. Next one is another book that I cannot find my copy. I know it's around someplace, but it is Papillon by Henri Charriere. Was published in 1969, made into a wonderful film also. One of the best film adaptations, I might add, from a book. So Henri Charriere was convicted of a murder that he says he didn't commit, and then he was sent to the penal colony, the French penal colony, because he was a Parisian. Well, he was from France. I don't know if he was a Parisian. Can't remember that part. But he was sent to the penal colony in French Guiana in South America. And this story just describes horrific conditions for the prisoners, what they had to endure, and then his efforts to escape to freedom numerous times. And the film, again, I believe was Steve McQueen, I think was the lead actor. And then Dustin Hoffman is in it as well. So great film if you want to check out the film. But the story, the book is amazing. And it's a true story. It's his memoirs of him being convicted, sent to the penal colony, and his efforts to regain freedom. So it's Papillon from 1969. The next book is The Persian Boy by Mary Renault. This is part of a series of historical fiction novels telling the life of Alexander the Great. And this one, it really left an impact with me. It's a beautifully written story told from the perspective of the eunuch servant who ran away from King Darius in Persia to become Alexander's servant. Bagawas is his name. So it's historical fiction. So it follows what we know about Alexander in terms of, yes, there was Bagawas. He was a real eunuch servant to Alexander the Great, but it also follows Alexander. This is a period in Alexander the Great's life, when he was in Persia, and it, talks about many of the other characters. So it is grounded in the facts of the different battles and the places and what we do know about Alexander, with the actual conversations, etc., that may be going on between characters are primarily fictionalized because we have no record of those. I've read, I think there's 3 or 4 books. I think there's 4 books in the series about Alexander the Great, and I've read 3 of them. And it's a remarkable tale. I've always wanted to read about Alexander the Great, and I just found that these historical novels were a better way to read about him. I haven't read any nonfiction about Alexander the Great. I feel like most of it is going to probably be too dry and staid. But if you have some recommendations for nonfiction books about Alexander the Great, hey, leave a note in the down under for me. All right, so the next one is going to be this one. Now, this is Gabriel Garcia Marquez, and you're probably thinking, oh, it's going to be 100 Years of Solitude, which is a stunning book, absolutely stunning book. But no, that's not one of my greatest reads of all time. No, it is Love in the Time of Cholera, which was published in, 1985. A remarkable book, another one that was made into a film. So the film adaptation is quite good. But it's the story, as it says here in the front of the book. This is the aromatic fumes of a lover's poison lead the way into the story of an unrequited love that survives 51 years, 9 months, and 4 days. Florentino Arisa, a man with the soul of a poet and the patience of a saint, has waited more than half a century for his love, the beautiful and naturally haughty Fermina Daza, since she revoked her promise to be his wife and married one of their city's wealthiest men, Dr. Juvenal Urbino, instead. What a story over the years. of this unrequited love. And of course, in the background is the cholera epidemic that was going on at the time. So while, a work of fiction, there's a lot of historical fact that is providing the background for the story. I love this book so much. When a friend of mine went to South America and was visiting Colombia, I asked him, hey, if you go to a bookstore, please find me a copy of this book in Spanish. And he did, sent me back this one. So we've got El Amor en los Tiempos de Cholera. It's still wrapped in the cellophane. And while I kind of know Spanish, I don't know it well enough to read this. I should probably work on it, but it is such a beautiful story and wonderful tale. And then that brings me to the last one of my best books that I've ever read so far. And that is Cormac McCarthy's All the Pretty Horses, which is part of the Border trilogy, which includes this and then the story, The Crossing. And then the third one is Cities of the Plain. The first two, this one, All the Pretty Horses and The Crossing, amazing, amazing. And his writing style I found really interesting and while at times a little bit difficult because, when it comes to dialogue, there are no quotation marks. Sometimes you can't tell what is dialogue and what is person thinking or whatever. It's in terms of, punctuation, or I wouldn't say punctuation, but the fact that there are no quotation marks around quotes. So you don't know if the person is thinking it or saying it. It's not readily apparent. You have to take it in the context. They're still remarkable stories. He's a remarkable writer. This was made into a really excellent film adaptation as well. The film is excellent at this, but the book is just absolutely amazing. And this one and The Border are my two favorites of that trilogy. Cities on the Plain, it's good, but it really doesn't hold up to me to these other two, and in particular this one. God, it's such a great story. And I used to live in I used to live in Arizona and New Mexico, and I'm familiar with that southern area of New Mexico and the West Texas, not necessarily a panhandle, but that area around El Paso. So I know that area, and I think that added to my enjoyment of these books. So there you have it. Those are, of all the books I've read currently, these are the best books by far that I've ever read. There are a lot of others that could have made that list, and I may be talking about them in the future. Leave a comment in the down under, please, especially if you have read any of the ones that I've shown today. Share your thoughts about it. As I mentioned, if you've got some ideas for some nonfiction works about Alexander the Great, that would be a pleasure to read, let me know about that. Hey, hit the like button, please. It helps with distribution of my content. And it really, you should be doing that anyway with any video that you watch, even if you're already subscribed to the content creator. Hitting the like button really helps the creator with distribution and getting it in front of more people. Certainly subscribing helps, but even if you're already subscribed, hitting the like button is a good thing. I am also on Instagram as NewsDude76, NEWZDUDE76, where I post, it's mostly, it's photography based. I post a variety of photos and also some photos from my record collecting, which I have a Facebook page called Calvin Wazoo, and that's primarily focused on the videos that I create here about record collecting and music, as well as other articles and videos that I find about records and music and musical artists. So that's another thing that I do on my channel. So, hey, check it out. I appreciate your time and patience in watching this video. And remember to pray for the people inside your head, for they won't be there when you're dead.